everybody, another fine day and an hour to talk power. I'm Nate Allball, high school football coach in Illinois, and I have been on this venture. We are now in week 11 of the Power Hour, where I'm trying to find certified strength coaches to pick their brain, allow them to coach me up, teach me up, and it has been quite the adventure. Today's guest, Coach Pignatiello. He is in Northeast Ohio area, Canton area, as I have just learned. And he works for 4.40 Performance. He works with several high schools in that area. Coach, welcome to the Power Hour.
Thanks, Nate. I appreciate it. I'm excited to talk about a few things here.
Now, have you been, your whole career, has it been sports performance? Have you been involved in one school or a different school in the past?
So I've been in both the collegiate sector and now in the private sector of both. I worked at two colleges at Heidelberg University for a year.
Okay.
And then I went up to New York at SUNY Cortland, State University of New York at Cortland, in their campus, and worked in there. I also have not just been a strength coach. In the process of that, I actually came out of college thinking I was going to be a football coach and going to use strength as to get me a job somewhere. Mm-hmm. And now it's kind of the other way around. I'm now a strength coach that enjoyed my football experience.
Yeah, good for you, man. And I didn't realize how much I enjoyed studying strength and the exercise science stuff until I started this. I honestly started it out of what I felt was necessity. Like, I have spent too long without asking strength guys. Now here we are 11 weeks in, and I've kind of started to develop a genuine interest in this. Today's coach is going to be talking about his culture and how to develop that culture kind of in each phase of your workout. Coach, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll be turning it over to you and let you teach us up.
All right. I look forward to it.
Here we are at clinic.chiefpigskin.com. Excited to share with you our schedule real quick. When you log in, it brings you to your dashboard, and you just want to come up here to the site and click Visit Site. I know that's a little odd, but that's the way the system works. Go to videos, and you will see the now, we're so close to 200 videos. Here, these are presentations from high school and Division III college football coaches, even one or two, actually three to be exact, Division I college football coaches, and we just keep adding. Look at all these presentations that are there for you. I could go on and on. But if you go here to the schedule here coming in 2021, we're already off to a great start, and I've even booked one with Robbie Howard out of Beardstown, Illinois, who's got a program there that's really on the rise. And I haven't even added that one here, but we've got Watkins coming to our office from Chicago, Concordia University, Chicago. We're heading to New Mexico to visit two high schools, La Cueva and Cleveland, in early November, Chatham, Glenwood in January, and Owatonna out of Minnesota. You look at these little red notes here, you see how good these teams have been. State champs, 29-6 over the last 3 seasons. We're just super proud of what we're putting together. We hope you'll check us out at clinic.chiefpigskin.com.
Welcome back to the Power Hour. You're about to hear from Coach Pignatiello out of Northeast Ohio area, and he has been former football coach, now strength coach, and you've been at the college level and now in the private sector working with high school athletes. So you have a unique story, and I'm sure we'll hear a little bit about that as you begin to present. So without further ado, Coach, feel free to present your screen or share your screen, and we'll catch up with you when you're done.
All right. You got there? Are we all set there?
Looks good.
So you can see that and see the title slide and all that?
Yep.
All right. Perfect. So really, everything that you do, whether in strength conditioning, it's a lot of culture development. but it's also a lot of personal development. And that goes from character champions your culture. And you would know this obviously as a football coach and having been there, is when you have a high character team, that's typically the ones that are the better teams, the better athletes that you have. And you, as a strength coach, you've got to be able to present to that and be able to develop that in terms of your base. So for me, my athletic background, I was a football player. I played Division I football at the University of Dayton, Ohio. Was a 3-year starter there. Loved my time there. Go Flyers. It's the same alma mater, and I'm alumni with like John Gruden, who's with the Raiders right now. Dan Patrick, who's done a ton of stuff with ESPN. So we're all members of the Flyer family. Once after football was over, I ventured into my athletic background of getting into CrossFit. Why? Because I needed something for myself that I would be super competitive in. I'm naturally a competitive person and always have been. And that keeps me going. That keeps me competing at a high level. I've done several local competitions, in best terms in Ohio. Competed a couple times, taking the best top 50 athletes in Ohio and been in top 10. And then I've also competed again in the global scale, which is known as the CrossFit Open, which I've been in the top 3,000 in the world, and all the way up to 2,400 in the world, and that's in the last 4 years. So I'm excited to see that progress, trying to break into that top 2,000 there. In terms of my future endeavors, I've really gotten involved with a lot more weightlifting. So I want to go compete a little bit in the weightlifting aspect, but that also goes involved with my USAW certification. All right. So you see also my contact information. I'm an open book, always willing to help people out, talk shop, talk culture. So all my contact information's there. Even on my Instagram, I'll post every day I work out, which is going to be 6. And you're going to see some kind of culture shock, some kind of culture development, some kind of tidbit motivation all the way through that process. All right. My coaching background, like I said, I've been at 2 schools. I coached football at both Heidelberg University in Tiffin, Ohio, and then SUNY Cortland up in Cortland, New York. Was both a football coaching running backs and specialists, so kickers, punters, long snappers. Had a lot of success. I had over, in my 5 years, I had 7 all-conference specialists and 3 all-conference running backs in that time frame. Very successful in that. I'd like to say I had some kind of part of it, so I'd like to be in that regard. As a strength coach, I was an assistant for my year at Heidelberg, and then I went up when I was at Cortland. I was assistant for a year, and then I became the head strength coach at SUNY Cortland for football. Loved that opportunity. That's really kind of what pushed me in the realm of to stay in strength conditioning more so than football. From there, I've now gone into private sector, wanting to really try to transition and develop myself as a strength coach to work with several opportunities, both male, female teams. I'm now in the private sector at 4.40. Ultimately, my future goals are to get back at some point in the collegiate sector and to work with teams. Doesn't matter if I'm a head strength coach for an entire program or if I'm going to go specific, I'm going to find what's best fit for me in that regard. So in terms of my background, my current certifications, I am certified as a CSCS, and I also have my USAW L1, so my weightlifting certification L1. My educational desires, I would like to go get my FRC, which is functional range conditioning certification. Either my CrossFit L1 or my USAW level 2 certification. Like I said, I really got involved a lot more with weightlifting aspect. And if the right fit, I'd actually like to go back to school to go get my master's in exercise science, to continue learning, to continue growing myself. So that's kind of me in a nutshell, with everything else. But ultimately, my presentation, I want to talk about character, because character champions culture. And that character all starts at the top. All right. It starts with that mission and vision. It has one heartbeat. So as you know, as a football coach, your team, you got to be as a team in one heartbeat. All right. You got to be going together, working together single-handedly to continue to grow. And that growth is going to be determined by the leadership. And that leadership is at the top. It's the law of the lid. So what the law of the lid is as you unscrew the lid of a jar, it raises higher. So the higher the leadership, the higher that the team can grow, the more that team can grow in that self. And where that comes is from your mission and vision. What is your mission and vision? Where are you right now? where do you see yourself going? Where do you see the team going? All right. And what do you guys stand up and stand to believe in? And all that goes into evaluation of yourself as your own person, individual, but then more importantly, the evaluation of the team and where the team sees you. Okay. And that leadership is that team dynamic. All right. That team dynamic, as you can see in my bottom right-hand corner here, is this little classic iceberg example. All right. Your character is what you're being, but what people see are the only true skills. And as you know, as a football coach, you spend hours of time either watching film, going to practice, doing everything outside of actual playing, and all people see is the 2.5, 3 hours, Friday night, Saturday, that you're playing a ball game. And ultimately, you get chirping from the stands every now and then too, saying you're not doing a good job. No one actually sees the work that goes into it. And so that leadership is really kind of what will help develop the character development throughout the process. And then you got to serve above the line. All right. What that means is being the best leadership is you've got to be a servant leader. You've got to go above and beyond what is expected and of your expectations to then continue to move forward, to continue to raise the lid, all right, in terms of developing that culture of your team. Okay. And because of that, you have to set your expectations and policies. Now, I'm a big believer in no rules. All right. There is no such thing as rules. Why? Because when you ask a kid, hey, this is a rule we're not going to follow. This is the rule that we have to follow by. The first thing that's going to be in their head is, how can I break the rules? Everyone wants to be a rule breaker. Okay. So I set expectations. All right. The reason why I set expectations is so that we can grow, and they're expected. That means, are you living up to the standards and expectations that we set? They're expected to be upheld. All right. Not trying to break the rules in per se. So like I said, character all starts on the top. All right. Where does that develop in terms of strength and conditioning? You as a strength coach have the opportunity to meet with the head coaches of that team and have the opportunity to build them up in every session, every part of each session. So every good strength and conditioning session is a warm-up. What are you trying to do during that warm-up? You're raising the temperature of the body. All right. You're raising the temperature of the body. Well, that same way is you're raising the awareness of what those athletes need to be doing. You need to be raising awareness of what their mentality is. You got to be raising their awareness of and raising that temperature, that energy. The more energy a session can have, or the more energy that team comes in, is going to be a hell of a lot more successful. One big thing I always preach, I call it TNT, takes no talent. And so I always talk about doing those things that take no talent, which means showing up on time, giving your best effort, and bringing energy to the group. Okay. And how does that all work in terms of the warm up? All right. In terms of that culture development, it's stress. It's knowing your athletes and stress. What are the outside influences on those athletes? So right now I'm working with high school athletes. What happened in the day of school? Obviously in today's day and age, there's a lot of kind of craziness that's all happening right now. There's some outside stress that's kind of going influence into it. How well are they prepared? Are they lethargic? As in because they only got 3 hours of sleep last night? Are they only ate one meal today? All right. Are they very mobile? Okay. And the strength and conditioning, those are all things that go very well in terms of that culture development. But also, if they're not properly eating right, if they're not getting enough sleep, they're not mentally prepared. Which means if they're not mentally prepared to do those things, all right, that culture is going to be kind of harder to develop. That's going to be harder to succeed with that athlete. And you've got to know, all right, is it them staying up on their phones till 3 a.m. and just choosing to eat like crap? Or are they trying to within those outside influence? And I always say, hey, there's no success without sacrifice. There's times where you need to sacrifice nights out with your friends, sacrifice doing things to make sure you're getting your sleep, making sure you're eating right. I mean, yeah, if you see a meal of chicken and vegetables versus a nice large pizza, there's not many people that would say, I'm going to go eat that chicken and vegetables over that large pizza if they could freely choose to. But in that mentality is you got to establish that mentality very early on in each session to develop that time. Then you have, obviously, what part of the warm-up? It's stretching. Is to expand the mind and body, to expand those muscles. You got to start thinking outside the box. As you develop that culture in terms of leadership, you've got to make sure those leaders are stepping up to challenge the status quo of the team. All right. The old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. All right. That's a solid motto of complacency. If you're complacent, all right, you're not really growing. You're not be able to mow. So if you are going through a warm-up and you're half-assing the warm-up in that regard, are they challenging the status quo? And that's where developing you as a strength coach, but also the leaders of that team need to challenge, hey, no, we got to pick this up. Where's the energy level? All right, all kind of developing that. And then you got to think, stretch different recovery methods. All right, what does that mean? You got to, hey, take the time to, hey, no, I got to eat right. I got to make sure when I'm leaving this session, I'm getting some quality protein and a quality meal and shortly after. I'm not doing that thing in terms of that mindset. And after, as we stretch it, hey, this is getting me ready to go what's next, getting prepared for the next play, next mindset. All right. And that different in those recovery aspects, it's that lasting mindset is, hey, when you finish that warm up, you've got to make sure your team and your culture is developed. So this, what the lift that they're about to hit and that session that you're about to run as a strength coach, that you're truly lasting, hey, nope, I'm ready to go. My mind is primed. I'm ready, and I'm going to get the most out of myself, my body, and this opportunity. Okay? It's always thinking about what's next. What's next? What's next play? Obviously, at the end of the warm-up, it's what's this, that prep phase. All right? You're going to movement prep phase, kind of move forward, but where does that translate on the field or on the court? It's, hey, it's the next play. So as a football coach, you have a penalty, or you drop a wide receiver drops a pass, or defensive guy misses the tackle. It's that next play mentality to continue to build, to raise that temperature. Hey, I got this. Let's pick it up. Hey, we got your back. We're going to develop that. Okay, and then your prep development. So this is like your movement prep in terms of selfish versus selfless. Okay, selfish versus selfless. So as you're going through these prep movements, so you're all warmed up. Now you're getting ready for your overall main strength portions. This is the time where you really hit home and build those connections. All right, you're asking them, hey, what's going on in people's lives? All right, you're finding out what's going on with your staff's life. So if you're running a session with a couple interns or a couple assistants, or you have multiple coaches in there, investing in those lives, but also the coach to players. All right, finding out what more is going on with those athletes. To, hey, what's triggering them? What gets them going? Taking investment. Hey, what do they got going on this weekend? Or wait, what do they got going on in school? How's everything going? It's continuing to build that as they are getting themselves neurologically prepped, they're mentally prepped, and also what is the player-to-player reaction and connection? Are they are the seniors off doing their own thing? Are the freshmen clueless and no one's really helping them? It's developing that connection. Hey, players to players, those seniors got to take care of those freshmen. And why do you have to do that? It's because everyone's got to feel valued. Whether you are a head at a Power 5 school or you're the assistant, a graduate assistant at a Division III school, it's all about making everyone feel valued. That's where you're going to get the most out of your culture. And it's going to be, you feel needed. When you're feeling needed, you're going to be so much more. All right. You're going to do so much more. You're going to feel more invested. Okay. It's like in your job. If you feel like you are doing a great job and people are valuing your time and your effort that you're putting into, as you as a football coach would know, as you're putting those time into those kids to develop those kids for their future. If they feel needed, they're going to always keep coming back and they're going to give you everything you got. They're going to run through that wall for you. In that same aspect is that prep development. You got to build that upward spirals. Everyone's building each other up. No one's tearing each other down. They're all building up. And how do they do that? You serve others. Once again, going back to that theme of serving above the line. And I put this in there as connections as well. It talks about the different hormonal response. So serotonin and oxytocin are your feel-good hormones that last a lifetime. That's the love that you feel, the long-lasting success of feeling valued, feeling like you're worth something, feeling like you're growing, and you feel that love and that attraction to that. Your players need to rely on the serotonin and oxytocin more than the endorphins and dopamine. Dopamine is short-term success, and that's where you start getting your selfishness is, oh, I just rushed for 300 yards this game. I don't need to work really hard this week. Well, then the next week they realize that something bad happened and they get humbled. The serotonin and oxytocin is working together as a group to be successful in that aspect. In that prep development of a weight room, in a weight session, athletes got to see the benefit of why they're doing this. All right. And they got to see why they're doing everything, carrying the weight room to the athletic field of saying, hey, this is where this is getting you ready. This is where you're getting triggered. This is where you're getting yourself all mentally prepped. You're mentally psyched because you're building those connections. It's that pre-game type feel is they're going to see it's like, hey, we've been in here. We know that. You develop that confidence and that swagger to be able to, hey, we got this. We've been here. We've done it. We can do it. And also with the weight session, it's not all about numbers. All right. There's a lot of things about strength and conditioning, particularly football strength coaches that, hey, we got to push as much weight as possible as soon as possible. That's not true. Unfortunately, that's the kind of rap football gets, but it's not about how much weight you're moving. It's about moving things correctly, and it's about us and taking ownership of our team that we are all doing the things right, things are correct, and we're getting ourselves in the right frame of mind to succeed. I love this kind of aspect because the athletes truly see in this prep when they start to own their team. So they start to own this team, they start thinking it's all about them as a team, not one individual, not one particular position or player, okay? Because you look at it, the Greeks' greatest crime wasn't losing their spear. It wasn't losing their armor, okay? Their greatest crime was losing their shield because their shield protected everyone else. It protected the group. If a Spartan or Athenian lost their shield, they end up leaving a weak spot that an enemy could attack them and attack the group. It hurt the group. So that was why it's important to keep your shields up and understand, because the shield protects everyone, and being selfless of, hey, we got to protect everyone to get them ready for what's next and ready to go through this workout. That's going to be hard, but it's going to help us be successful. Okay. Then you get to the actual strength portion, which is your meat and potatoes of it all. All right. Understand that players are over than coaches, because players are the ones that are perform. We could have, as coaches, the greatest game plan in the world, but if the players don't perform, it doesn't get there. So how do you get your players to perform? It's understanding that as you grow older in your culture, the seniors are going to be kind of the captains of the ship. They steer the ship. They're the leaders of that team. They're going to keep everyone moving forward. All right. However, the juniors have to which is the other part of that upperclassmen, are kind of like the first mate. They've got to assist those seniors to ultimately give it their best, because they're the most ones that are going to be playing typically. And obviously you have the underclassmen, which is kind of your crew. But without the crew, your ship goes nowhere. The crew is what keeps the ship going. Just like in a football team, your scout teams are typically underclassmen. Those scout teams have to perform so the junior seniors are successful come Friday and Saturday night. How's that work at a strength session? Hey, those seniors got to be leaders. They see a freshman not doing something right, they're stepping up. They're stepping up to help them, assist them, get them going. All right. Now, typically, as you go from freshman to senior, your numbers start to dwindle. You usually may have 20, 30 freshmen, and you end up having 10 seniors. Those seniors need help in terms of continuing to help push that forth. And as you go into your meat and potatoes of your lift, okay, it's all about exercise selection. All right, that's your themes. So this is why it's important to know where you want to go, what kind of culture you set. So you can set your daily talking points to develop hey, this is where you go. You know your team. You know where the team is going. Guide them in there. And you're putting forth the best thing, what they need. So if the athletes are typical glute, most high school athletes, even college athletes, they have terrible glute strength. They don't know how to use their glutes, whether it's be squatting, whether it be deadlifting, whether it be doing something as a simple jump. Well, your glutes and your hamstrings are all part of that athleticism. If you can't use part of that, you're losing out on what you could be athletically. And once again, if you can guide them to see the importance of it, see the translation from athletic field from the weight room to the athletic field, you're going to help them grow in terms of that's how they're going to get there to be more successful as an athlete on the field. Obviously, with every strength and conditioning, there's never enough time to hit everything. So the time constraints that come on with it is I always talk about, hey, keep your fork. All right, that's a big thing that I always say is keep your fork, because the best is yet to come. So the way I best phrase this in a story is, hey, you just have this giant meal. All right, you're out somewhere, you're at a wedding or whatever, and the caterer comes up to you and said, oh, keep your fork, because the best is yet to come. That just gets you going in terms of thinking, wow, this dessert is going to blow my mind. This dessert, what's next? And those time constraints are, hey, they're getting your bang for your buck. You're getting 1% better every single day, okay? Understanding that, hey, you're always limited to what your time, but it's seeing down the line of where this vision's going to be. It's getting 1% better. It's understanding that Rome wasn't built in a day. It takes time to develop the strength, to develop proper movement patterns, to continue to move forward as we continue to be successful in that aspect. Once the strength portion is done, you start to talk about the cool down, which is the finish. All right, the cool down, which is the finish. I always like to finish with some kind of competition. All right, I firmly believe competition makes us better. It causes us to push harder, continue to be forward, and it helps you. You got to learn as an athlete and as a coach that you got to be comfortable being uncomfortable. All right, that's where you truly make your adaptation. So, for example, I have 2 examples up here of understanding that. So I have Roger Bannister, who was the first person to ever break a 4-minute mile in running. He was told that it was not going to be possible. He couldn't do it. All right, but he was uncomfortable training to get himself there. He had to push himself against the competition to ultimately do that. Same way with powered flight. Being from the Dayton area, the Wright brothers are kind of important. We learned about them pretty solidly. And so, but Wright, same thing. They were said powered flight was not going to be something that could be successful. All right, but they pushed it, and they pushed the limit of what could be done. All right, they didn't stop when the chips seemed down. They continued to finish. They made sure they saw it all the way done. And it's understanding of where that competition is. It's competing against yourself. Not only competing against yourself to be the best you can be, then you compete against your teammates who can be the best on the team. But it's by giving your best effort as yourself that you can compete, and then ultimately that leads up to team versus team. So your team versus their team. How well are you going to compete? Who are you going to be in the 4th quarter when the chips may be stacked 4 against you, or it's a tight game? Are you going to be the one that, I can't compete this well, I'm tired? Or are you the one that at the end, you're tired, but you know what? I'm finishing this. I'm making sure we come out on top and we give our very best, that we leave it all out on the field all the time. As a strength coach, I always did this competition. Sometimes I did an offense versus defense competition. Hey, see who's winning. And a lifting group. So at Cortland, we had 5 different football lifting times and lifting groups throughout the day. It could be lifting group to lifting group, having to complete that amount of work. And it's that aspect is, hey, you don't know what the other teams are doing. You don't know what your competition is, what they're doing that week, who you're playing that week, what they're doing. So you've got to give your best effort so you are prepared for no matter what happens, you are going to mentally train yourself to give yourself the best that you can be so you can become the best you can be. When you talk about cool down, it's all about that flexibility. You know, a lot of people stretch it out. Flexibility doesn't come easy. All right. Flexibility is something that takes time. Once again, it's like a heavyweight fight. You're going to take your lumps, but you're going to deliver some blows too. Who are you going to be, and having that positive mindset all the time that you're going to step up and you're going to be the one that at the end of the day that you're going to rise to the top. You're going to rise to the occasion and knowing that, hey, you're going to overcome this because you can. You are a better athlete than you think you are, and you are going to be better than your competition. Like I said, it's a gradual process. That flexibility and culture takes days to months to years to continue to develop. But as you come together, like in the picture over here, when you come here and together, you see as you come together, you reach success. Once again, it's that team building of everyone's pushing themselves to be the best they can so the team can reach the best they can. And then you got to be adaptable. You got to be adaptable to whatever as you come into building culture. Is something may arise, a situation may arise mid-season, or something may arise very quickly that could come on, and you got to change it based on the need. Obviously, during our this last spring, when I was still up in Cortland, is everything with COVID as it hit. We had to be adaptable in terms of, hey, not everyone has a gym to go to. Not everyone has a home gym. So what kind of workouts do we do? How do we continue to build that team culture as we look forward to hopefully having a season as it continues to progress? So that's always going to be shared, always going to be different, always going to be continue to move. But you got to be able to be flexible and to be able to make those adaptations, to be able to build that success to ultimately win your championships wherever you are. Okay, then obviously, then it's the recovery. I always say do the hard 80. So it's easy to show up and lift and give energy. But what it is really hard is making sure you get 8 to 9 hours of sleep a night, making sure you're eating enough and eating the right foods at the right times, making sure you're working on your mobility and flexibility all the time. I always say go spend 10 to 15 minutes before bed, making sure you stretch, because what does that stretching do? It puts you in a relaxed state of mind. Well, what do you want to be in right before you go to bed? A relaxed state of mind. So you can then get a higher quality of sleep, not just for the duration. So your duration's high, but your quality is high. That's where it also is. But you also, the hard 80 is holding yourself accountable to doing those things when no one's looking. All right. And who are you when it's just you and your buddy? Are you just holding each other accountable? Or, oh, he's my buddy, I'm going to let him slide? Is it your teammates? Okay. Are you holding your teammates accountable? All right. So is it, hey, it's junior to senior or senior to sophomore, etc.? Hey, that's not right. You shouldn't be eating that. Or, hey, why are you out till 3 a.m. playing Xbox when we got 6 a.m. lifts? You know, it's stuff like that. Is who are you holding your teammates accountable? All right. And then are you holding the leaders accountable? Like I said, the leaders are the ones that steer your ship. They're the ones that will be the player oriented to, hey, develop that culture. What kind of culture does that be? Are the leaders being held accountable by everyone else on the team? And that's that challenge quo. And recovery takes time. You're not going to come out from a practice and be like, all right, if I start another practice right now, I'm going to be ready to go. You got to learn that recovery takes time, and you have to think about the next play, the next session. What am I doing between now and my next session to make sure I am recovered as much as possible to get myself ready? So whether if that's a lift and then a practice, or a practice, then a lift, or hey, practice the practice overnight, or a game to lift the next day. It's recovering, doing everything to make sure your recovery is on point for that next session. And it's that culture of accountability that truly helps you. Hey, I'm going to hold everyone accountable, and everyone has to do their part. Everyone on that team has to do their part. And obviously, I love this quote over here. A high quality sleep fortifies your immune system. It balances your hormone. It boosts your metabolism, increases your energy, and improves the function of your brain. There was a study done that if you have, as for guys, that if you will get six hours of sleep for 3 consecutive nights versus 8 hours of sleep, your testosterone in your body can drop up to 25% of what your body produces. 25%. So a quarter of what your body could produce is all you're getting by not being able to sleep enough. So where does that play into a factor? You come into a weight session. You come into practice. You're not mentally or physically prepared to go, what is that going to do? Higher likely of injury. Higher likely of not performing at your best to get the most out of what you can. And so that's why the sleep is a huge aspect. It's a lot of what's going on in research in the college realm is the importance of more and more sleep in that regard. Okay, just remember, character champions your culture. It takes no talent. It takes no talent to come to sessions on time. It takes no talent to demand that you bring energy. And it takes no talent that you give your best effort every single day. Every single lift, no matter what, whether every rep, every set, every lift, everything's done. It's that connections that you make between each other and each athlete. Connections from coach to player, player to coach, player to player. Those connections are what helps the team feel trust, feel loved, all right? Feels their value, feel their worth. Keep your fork. It's a long process. The best is yet to come for your team. It's a building process. We build one day at a time, 1% every single day, getting better by 1% every single day. So keep that fork, all right? And compete your butt off. Every opportunity you get, stand at the challenge. I'm going to compete because I'm going to push myself to be the best I can be. Whether that's running sprints, and every sprint is at my best level that I could be, is pushing as hard as I can, or in every game, you are giving your best effort to ultimately win that sprint or win that game. And then recover, taking control of the accountability of doing everything right to make sure you are ready and mentally prepared as well as physically prepared for that next step into that next goal, next moving forward, that next competition that you're going to face. All right. Once again, my contact information is my email, cell phone number. Like I feel for, hey, if you want to shoot me a text, give me a call. Whoever listens to this and sees this, by all means, I'm always open. Okay, there's my Twitter handle, Instagram. Follow me, hit me up. I'm always willing to talk shop, talk different training methods, talk a little bit more about culture and leadership development. I put together several leadership documents before. Been a big major part in my time at Cortland for the last 3 years as the leadership development program, as well as culture development. And we've had a lot of success and winning conference championships. So if you have any confirmation, feel free. And so, yeah, I really like culture, and character is the ultimate telltale that's going to help you win those championships.
Coach, great job. We're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we got a little Q&A with Coach Pinitello.
So run the angle. This drill teaches a defender how to properly close ground on a ball carrier. There are several culture points here. First one, track the near hip. Use images of a cheetah when hunting prey to demonstrate the best example of the near hip tracking. Close the distance while maintaining leverage. This is the biggest things where a lot of defenders struggle. They over pursue. We want to track his near hip, because if he tries to cut back, we're right there. If he keeps going, we're able to profile tackle and near peg, run him out of bounds. This is really, really crucial here. The defender cannot let the ball carrier cross his face, or else his angle, and in turn everyone else's angle, will be inaccurate. Scallop, this is a good coaching point we use here. One of our buzzwords, as the ball carrier squares his shoulders to threaten a cutback. Scallop is defined as a shuffle while continuing to close the ball carrier where your near leg and near shoulder. You want to make sure you scallop. A lot of kids now, when they stop their feet. As you sprint to scallop, then make the tackle.
Welcome back to the Power Hour. You just heard from Coach Pinitello. Talking culture and building culture. Coach, this is this is a redundant question, but if you could sum up talking to a coach that maybe hasn't taken the culture of his weight room seriously yet, right? If you were talking to a coach that has just kind of been opening the room type thought, how would you summarize the sales pitch of here's why it's important to be building a culture in your room?
So the weight room, first off, that's a fantastic question. So the weight room itself, as I've heard before, and I know you have heard before, can be the safest place in the world or the most dangerous place in the world. In that same aspect, it can be the safest place in the world by the way that what you develop. You can develop those long-term connections, those team bonding connections of, hey, everyone's working together. They're seeing each other work. So they're all trying to get better for that season, that game, whatever, wherever you may be, getting stronger to become the best athlete you can be. It could also be the most dangerous, because if you're just opening the door and letting people come in, do their own thing, you're preaching a lot of individualism. As in, hey, I'm going to do this, you're going to do that. I'm going to stay over here. I'm going to mind my own business. You miss out those connections. If you have a higher team chemistry and build a better connected team chemistry, like that's all connected, you're going to see that you're going to have more success because they care about each other. They care about the man next to you. Football is the ultimate team game because I don't know if you're an offense or defensive coach, but if you're a defensive coach and one person is not filling the right run gap, it's amazing what happens because that ball happens to find that area. And all of a sudden a big play gets broken off. Or an offensive, obviously typically see it with an offensive line. Offensive line missed the block, the play goes nowhere. But if he got his block, the hole's the freaking size of a truck that could drive through there. So it's an ultimate team game of all 11 people have to do their job. And so as a football coach, I always say, hey, just do your 111. Do your job in that moment. And at that moment, if you're the guy opening the weight room, your 111 job is to make sure everyone is on point, doing what they're supposed to. You're upholding the expectations that you expect from your athletes. Could be such as a squat standard. It could be, hey, no, I'm coming in. You're going to bring energy. You're not going to sulk. You're going to come in here. It's not resting, taking breaks. It's, hey, pushing the limit, getting where you need to be to give your best effort every set, every rep, every lift.
Coach, when in your workout time, when you're with the athlete, whatever athlete you're with, is there a set time where they're getting a lot of this information from you, or is this just literally kind of a part of the language consistently, constantly, or is there something of the day, or 2 minutes at the end where you're talking it, maybe preaching it, quote unquote? Just kind of how do you handle that to get? Because again, a lot of teaching points through that. Just curious as to when your athletes are seeing or hearing those things.
So I always how I started every week. Every week had a weekly theme per se. And that was I always had a whiteboard. That was always on the whiteboard for that session. Hey, here's our weekly theme. And then every day that we lifted, we had a theme of the day or our daily theme and what it was going to be. And so they knew that. I'd always start the session with those two aspects, explaining how that translates. It took about 5 minutes. That was my goal, no more than really 5 minutes. Because once after that, you have guys that are all just kind of completely, all right, I need to get going on my lift. I want to get going. So you lose focus after that. But it's those 5 minutes that you hit on points. But once again, it's taking those points in a constructive manner. So, for example, it could be, hey, looking back at last year, we sucked on 4th down situations. Like our offense only got 2 of 7 opportunities versus our defense, who gave up the 4th down over 50% of the time. It's relaying that, or it's laying on some kind of culture where you're talking about, hey, leadership. Hey, seniors, you got to understand that you're swinging your last couple golf balls. You start your last first. Many of these, it's your last first this, last first day of camp, last first game, all this kind of stuff. It's layering it on there at the very beginning to get their mindset right. You're warming up the mind to get them ready. You're prepping that aspect. And as they go through the actual warm-up and those prep movements, okay, you're really layering that on. Hey, who have you touched today? You're just walking around as they're warming up, as they're going through the warm-up. You're talking to a couple teammates. Hey, Joe, who have you touched today? Which teammate of yours have you made a connection with? All right. Hey, Bob, who are you? What have you done today to make sure that you've become a better student today? And it's kind of layering on those 10 points as you kind of build up through. And then ultimately, when you get to the cool down, you're talking about finish. And that's, hey, being relaxed and focused if we're cooling down in a stretch. Layering on, hey, this is what we just talked about. Where are you going to be when you leave here before you come into your next session? What are you going to do to make sure you hit these points before you come into that next session? And so we lifted 4 days a week. There was always a weekly theme for every week, and it usually coincided with our season, with something that happened the previous year, and something like that or whatnot. And so everything had a reason for it, and every day had a reason for it based on what we were either doing in that session or what happened that week of that previous year, to get that in their mind of, hey, we have to be better than what we were last year. We cannot get complacent.
Coach, I love this quote: the serotonin, oxytocin greater than the dopamine, and wait, what was the other one with dopamine?
Endorphins.
I mean, I really love that. Super powerful. I was wondering if you could explain a little bit more, like exactly what serotonin and oxytocin are.
Serotonin and oxytocin are kind of, if you think about it, I got this from the book Leaders Eat Last by Simon Sinek. Talked about when you, back in the day, back caveman days, prehistoric days, always talked about everyone was together. If someone got a woolly mammoth, everyone celebrated, everyone could eat. And they used every bit of part of that. They all felt valued because they all had a role. The men were out hunting. The women were cooking, doing whatever. If they needed to hunt, they could. They were preparing it. They were going through all that. Everyone had a point in value. Serotonin's like the love you feel because you feel valued. Oxytocin is ultimately the ultimate feeling of, hey, this is my brotherhood. This is my livelihood. I care more about the people that are helping me succeed, because if I can't do something, I'm not fulfilling myself. I'm not helping them succeed. If I fail, they fail. And it's kind of building that bond. Dopamine is always that short-term success. It breeds those seeds of destruction. It puts that selfish mind like, oh, I'm good enough. I don't need to do anything else. And endorphins, what I always say is endorphins are what essentially mask your pain. So if you're letting endorphins kind of run yourself and you're masking your pain, whether, hey, that's an injury, or you're masking yourself as a teammate of, hey, this is bothering me. And hey, like you have some bullying going on, for example, and that freshman's feeling bullied and he continues to mask it, or the bully is just masking that he's actually bullying the freshman or something like that. It's that hey, you're putting a divisive culture in there. It's a selfish hormone that, hey, there's a problem within the team. You're dividing the team one way. You've now lost that team chemistry. You've lost that brotherhood where you need everyone to succeed every single game.
Coach, the last question I got for you here is another thing I love was do the hard 80. I love that, that 80% of your wellness is happening while you're not here. I really enjoyed that. I was wondering when it comes to, whatever coach may watch this, he might be the only guy that is doing strength or wellness at his school or gal. Where is if I were to refer kids to, hey, here's rather than just Googling how to eat well, are there any other resources for athletes, young athletes, to have some more guidance there along the nutrition lane?
Resources wise, there are several things. Yeah, you could make a Google search, but which is unfortunately there's pluses and minuses to that. One of the minus things to it that I find is that a lot of what you're seeing, like the ADA and all this nutrition aspect, it's all privately funded. They're funding studies to prove their point. Mm-hmm. Where people talk about, hey, sodium's bad for you, or saturated fats are bad for you. Well, then you look at what the carnivore diet is. So the carnivore diet is what Hathor Bjorks is on, the guy who just deadlifted over 1,100 pounds. That's what he's on. So it's steak and rice, and you eat steak and rice for every meal. Let's say and it's salted too. So your sodium's high. You have a lot of saturated fat, but he's one of the best athletes in the world. It's hard to argue that. And if you look at his blood work and all that stuff, that goes in hand. And so is a lot of misinformation. In terms of what I use, I've always used the 40-30-30, 40 grams of 40% carbs, 30% fats, 30% protein. And it's a variety of protein. You're not just eating chicken. All right. You're not just eating poultry. So turkey, chicken, you're having some beef, you're having some pork. You're having a little bit of fish. I know that's always a hard one because people have a touchy feeling about fish and stuff like that. But it's mixing up, same thing, mixing up fats, mixing up your carb sources. Like I always say with veggies, more colorful the better. Because if you're only eating green vegetables, you're missing out on some micronutrients that would be found in red peppers, in carrots, in all the different colors of vegetables that you could have, squash, all that kind of stuff. That every vegetable and the colors actually do mean something and what kind of nutrients are in them for everything else. So it's varying the carbs, varying the proteins, and ultimately varying the fats, getting your fats from different sources. And where those sources can be. Obviously, you're going to get your saturated fats from your proteins. All right, that's what's in there. But then it's getting those other healthy ones such as avocados, fantastic sources of fats, nuts, seeds. All right, so you're talking cashews, almonds, pistachios, all great nuts to have. Nut butters, okay. What's the guacamole, avocado, nut seeds. And then when you cook food, olive oil, not canola oil or vegetable oil. It's going to be in those and varying those sources to do as such. And honestly, you vary those, you're going to make plenty of meals without getting bored. And that's the one thing that I was very fortunate enough that I spoke nutrition with all these guys, and they They talked about it all the time, doing it right, of eating it right. And it's finding the right fit for you, because that's a lot about what diet is you're going to find things that fit well for you that don't fit well for someone else. You may like a vegetable that someone else doesn't. Same way as I thoroughly enjoy fish. I love having fish. Like I already mentioned, there's a lot of people that don't like fish in that regard. And it's just experimenting to finding your right way. But if you can keep that balance of carbs to fat to protein, you're doing pretty well. And the biggest I'd say for all the younger kids out there is eliminate sugar. Sugar is, in my opinion, and they're starting to get a little bit more research about it, is the most addictive substance on the planet. It's more addictive than crack cocaine. It's more addictive than heroin. Like, that's the whole aspect of, you eat a cookie, you want another cookie. That's why the next thing you know, if you open a pack of Oreos, you have one Oreo, next thing you know, you've ate an entire row of tray on the Oreos. And you just want to keep craving it, but it's also empty calories. That's just what it is. It's not getting the most. It's going to spike your blood sugar, and then you're going to have that crash because your body's spiking the insulin response. And in today's day and age, that's what, as strength coaches, we really have to hit home in promoting that, because obviously we talk about the pandemic we're in right now is people that are already pre-exposed and have those problems are people that are overweight, diabetic, have lung disease, that all this stuff. Well, how do you solve that? You eat better. All right. And that's eliminating the sugars out of your diet. You exercise on a regular basis, and you continue to work for success, a betterment for yourself. You just move, flat out move to get that heart rate going.
Coach, I had a great time talking with you today. A ton of great points, so much good. This is all I had to take notes on today. I'm out in my garage, as you can see. I grabbed a piece of cardboard, and you can't hardly see it, but that thing is full, top to bottom, of writing things down from today. So thank you so much for your input. You guys at home, look up Coach on Twitter. It's at Coach K Pig. That's Coach Kyle Pinitello. Coach, thanks so much. Any closing thoughts before we sign off?
Eat well, exercise regularly, get your sleep. And you'll be turning out to be a hell of a person that you can be. Push yourself to be the best you can be every single day.
Well, Coach, thank you so much. You guys that are watching, thank you so much. This was week 11 of the Power Hour. Like and subscribe. Those things really help. And we hope to catch you right here next Monday for the 12th of 12 Power Hours.